So today I'm going to talk about the Doomsday Clock, Absolute Edition. So there it is. And so DC they put out all sorts of compilations. There's paperbacks, there's hardcover, then they have their deluxe edition, they have their omnibus. And so this is I would say the pinnacle, which is the Absolute Edition. And they're quite large. You can see, compared to my hand. These are the largest editions, and they're usually reserved for more important storylines. Certainly not every story gets put into an Absolute Edition, very few. I own a bunch of Absolute Editions. They're on very nice paper, large, nice colors. So I decided to get Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock is kind of, I'm on the fence with this series. I think that it's got a lot to love. It's done by Jeff Johns, and the art by Gary Frank. I think the art in here is some of the best ever from DC Comics. And I think part of it is the fact that Gary Franks was given a lot of time to create the art. This was a 12-issue series, but it probably took, I'd say, a year and a half to come out. There were a lot of delays, a year and a half to 2 years. There you go. So it's a continuation. Now, there's a little bit of an argument of Jeff Johns has said that this is not intended to be a continuation of Watchmen, even though if you accept it as canon, if you accept it as a part of the DCU, it would be, because it doesn't all, but it starts in the Watchmen universe, contains the Watchmen characters. But I think that in Jeff Johns' mind, he wanted to be free from restrictions on what he writes. And I guess DC, including Dan Didio, disagreed with him and wanted it to be in canon. So I think that there are definitely issues. One of the biggest issues. So for me, Watchmen is the greatest comic book story ever. That's my opinion. And I don't like when they touch those characters. I feel like they should be just separate. That Watchmen was the beginning and end of those characters. But I know that DC wants to use them, and they had, what is it, before Watchmen, and I didn't collect any of those. It was because it was by different writers. I just think Alan Moore intellectually owns Watchmen. I know legally it's DC Comics, but I think that nobody can do Watchmen like Alan Moore, and I don't think Jeff Johns did. A few of my problems was he brought back several characters, including Comedian, and Comedian died in the beginning of the story, and I thought he should remain dead. So I believe that Dr. Manhattan somehow, I don't know, reached back in time or reconstructed him or something, brought him back. Rorschach was also brought back. This was a different Rorschach, but the weird thing was that this character, the new Rorschach, spoke and acted exactly like the old Rorschach. So I don't know if, and they didn't know each other. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like he took on the spirit of Rorschach because he wasn't like that out of costume, or if it just coincidentally he happened to just talk exactly like the original Rorschach. But I didn't love that. I thought that his take on Ozymandias was not good. Ozymandias was supposed to be the smartest man alive in the Watchmen universe, and I think that Jeff Johns made him look rather foolish over and over again. And I thought that was bad. In one case, the new or the reconstituted Comedian fights with Ozymandias, and he, in his argument, he says, well, when we fought the previous time, I was drunk and you caught me unaware. And so then They have a new fight which goes differently, and I just don't agree with that. I think that the whole point of Alan Moore in The Watchmen was that Ozymandias had taken himself to the ultimate level, and that even somebody like the comedian was absolutely no match for Ozymandias. And in the movie, you could see, I thought the movie did a brilliant job of that fight, which was that the comedian didn't lay a glove on Ozymandias. Ozymandias was so superior to him in fighting that he could not even scratch Ozymandias. And I thought that was what. But I think the biggest problem here is that Alan Moore left an ambiguous ending at the end of Watchmen, and in this book it resolves that ambiguous ending, and I didn't like it. I don't think that in that case I thought it really did step on Alan Moore's toes by resolving that ending. So why would I get if I have so many criticisms, why would I get Doomsday Clock? Because I do think it was a great series, and there are other problems with it. I think that as far as plotting, the plot, I think that Alan Moore's plot for Watchmen was airtight. This one has a lot of plot issues, and I think that there are some gaping plot holes in it. In particular, it's almost as if Jeff Johns, and I've written multiple reviews on this. I've read each comic probably 3 to 4 times. And it's something just kind of stuck with me. It's like something is wrong with the plot here. And then when I carefully went through and detailed out what happened, it was as if Jeff Johns changed course between the first half of the story and the second half. And you may not notice it just reading through and enjoying, because I think the dialogue is fantastic, characterization is fantastic, the art is fantastic. There's so much good stuff in here. But when you analyze the plot, it doesn't work. Just one example is that Ozymandias goes to the DCU, with Superman and Batman and all that. And when he gets there, there is a problem. It's called the Superman theory, and people are kind of turning against the superheroes. And then later on, it seems to be Ozymandias that was driving the Superman theory. But it's like, well, wait a second. When he arrived, it was already going on. So there seems to be an implication that he went back in time. But there's a problem with that, which is that means that his plan for the Superman theory was based on something that was already going on. So why would he even need to do that? And there's kind of a problem there in that, how would he go back in time to initiate something that he had heard about? It's like he gave himself the idea, which it didn't make any sense. Plus, it's like, well, where did he get a time machine from? So there seems to be kind of an implication that, because he has Saturn Girl, did Saturn Girl help him create a time machine? I don't know, because I don't think it's ever spelled out. But it doesn't make any sense. Another issue is that through parts of the comic, Dr. Manhattan says that when he and Superman meet, he can't see past that moment. So either Superman kills him or they destroy the universe or something like that. And those seem to be the two options. But when they meet, neither of those things happen. So it's like, okay, well, I guess he was wrong. But it's just kind of the craftsmanship of this that I do like. There is so much to like in here. Another issue, and this is not in Jeff Johns' control, is that there's a lot of things in here that really set up future stories. And in fact, there's the introduction of a few characters, but one in particular. But I don't think anything ever came out of it. I don't remember them ever using these characters again. So it seems like this was setting up something big, and nothing came of it. And so, I don't know. It kind of diminishes the effect of this story. Um, but this is a really beautiful. Again, I have a lot of these absolute editions. This is the newest one. This one just came out this past week. So I'm reading through it yet again, and I'm going to write another review of it on Amazon, as I always do. It has also a sleeve that it goes into, which I don't have here. And then what DC does is they supply these gorgeous boxes. I mean, it's just a cardboard box, but the beauty of these boxes is you could put the books back in the box and they'll stay beautifully protected. Now that you can see my box is dented, and Amazon has a very poor track record of sending stuff unprotected or poorly protected. But in this case, I'm not going to blame Amazon because I think it. I want to say that it even shows up the denting somewhere on the comic. It's the shape is pretty good. It's pretty good. But this box came in another box, so clearly it was dented by the publisher, not by shipping. So, oh well. I paid about $100 for this one. It retails for $125. But you buy from. I didn't buy this from Amazon, but Amazon it's about $90 at this point. So if anyone ever pays $125, you overpaid because you can always get these for less, unless they're out of print. In which case, I don't really notice the absolute editions jumping in price. Sometimes they do, but if I cared about the price, I wouldn't even open it and bother reading it. So I like to read them. Anyway, I do recommend Doomsday Clock, but as a huge Watchmen fan, I would say it has a lot of issues, and it has issues with plotting. It is, I would say, vastly inferior to Watchmen, but then again, 99% of the comic book stories out there are vastly inferior, and since I think Watchmen is the greatest comic story ever written, that would mean that the other 1% are merely inferior rather than vastly inferior. But I do recommend Doomsday Clock, particularly given that I like very little that DC is coming out with right now. So, and has come out with probably for the last decade or so. So I think this is one of the best stories they've come up with in quite a few years. So anyway, that's Doomsday Clock.